no breakfast except for cereal. So what we're having here is Pringles with parsnip leek stew, cold. Breakfast of champions and rockhounds. Check out these old foundations here. Obviously a silver mine right around here somewhere. So today, this morning, we're heading down to Silver Center just because it's a little more obscure than the usual Cobalt sites, and Jeff's got his metal detector. As I said before in the previous video on Cobalt, you want the history, check out Cobalt, right? It's all laid out for you there. It's a very fascinating place. You want the silver? It's Silver Center that you're going to. 1874, there was a lumberjack who found a piece of raw silver in this area. At the time he thought it was lead. It was not determined to be silver until a couple of decades later. That was basically after 1903 when cobalt hit it big. So 1909, Silver Center is also, appearing on the radar as a site of silver. You had three mines. There was the Bell Ellen, there was the Wetlaufer, and there was the Keeley mine. So as you're coming south from Cobalt on the 567, there's a road off to your right which takes you to Silver Center. As you're going down that way, the first area of mines that you're going to hit is the Bell Ellen mine, and that's on the left. You then come to a very large clearing, and that's the Keeley Frontier mine. Huge clearing, that's the most long-lived of the mines. So this is the main site of Silver Center. Its advantage basically is that not as many people have traipsed over the area looking for silver. And when we're talking silver, we're looking for a couple of basic sort of things with the silver. You're either going to find a nugget, and I remember Ralph Schroeder told me that he had found a nugget in a washout after a beaver dam had broken and washed across the tailings in a certain area. You're looking for possibly silver wire, and sometimes this wire, it looks just like wire tangled into clumps, and it can encase like a bismuthinite crystal or arsenite crystal or something like that, which is a very cool find, encased in wire, or dendritic silver. And the dendritic silver would look like, say, an old dead tree with dead branches kind of radiating outwards, right? So those are your basic, or again, you'll just find the silver within a vein, and the vein in particular will be possibly a vein or just kind of a sheet of silver between the natural rock, the diabase, and a calcite. So it's somewhere sandwiched between the calcite and the diabase is often how you will find the silver. And so your options for looking for silver, you're either going to check the dumps. That in itself is a real art form, understanding that the vast majority of that dump is just the country rock. And you've got to figure out wherever they're hitting, say, a really rich vein, where exactly did the rock from around that vein end up within the dumps. Did they dump it out flat? Did they dump it out over the edge of the dump so it spews down a face and you're just going to get a small exposure if it was early in their workings? And Sinkankas talks about it quite a bit in one of his books on prospecting for gems and minerals, one of my favorite books. So here's a cross section of what's beneath us. You can see all of the little drill bits or the drillings around us. This is cool. This is cutting into a bit of breccia. Okay, now the breccia has been blasted up by a volcano, and the breccia in this area is known to have actually diamonds. There's a particular pipe not so far from Cobalt called the 95-2 pipe, and they're finding black octahedron diamonds, octahedron being the shape, in this particular spot, right? And you can also go in the local rivers with a UV light and it'll sometimes show up diamonds as well. So I cannot emphasize how important it is to be extremely careful where you walk around here, because a lot of times they've just covered over an open shaft with, say, tin, and the grass has grown up above that, and if you are not aware of where you're walking, down the shaft you go. You'll see that pink tint on the rock. That's erythrite, which is an oxidized ore of cobalt. So this is the kind of stuff where you're looking for the silver. It'll often be just along the edge of the diabase, between the calcite, you know, basically on the edge of the white, between the black and the white, you'll often find a silver or a grey. Now it could well be cobalt too, right? I mean, it's more likely to be cobalt. A good proportion of this particular area has a lot of cobalt in it, along with arsenic, bismuth, nickel. It actually leads to the word cobalt. Cobalt comes from Saxon silver mines, where they said that the cobalt, which was like a little goblin, was responsible for the seeding of the silver with this grey sort of metal, which in the 1700s they hadn't yet identified as actual cobalt, but that's basically where the name evolved from for cobalt, the element, right? This little goblin who wrecked the silver deposits in Germany. So all sorts of vividly colored rock, the purples, the pinks, and in this case greens, probably some sort of a copper tinting. And as I said to you before, okay, usually when you see a structure, there's a shaft to follow. So you see these big thick logs sticking upwards. It's part of the former head frame. And of course, looking down here, there's quite a drop. Oh my goodness, that's well over, that's a significant drop down there. I'll put my camera down from the other end here, but here's a mine shaft going down. It appears that down at the bottom seems to be a tunnel going sort of in this direction here. Obviously a good chunk of the debris out here came from what's just down there. I think it's going to explode. You having any luck there, brother? Switch on the machine. Let's hear the noise, man. You'll find something. This is me miner's method here. Another case in point shaft going down, rotting timbers all around it. Being careful. Quite a big foundation here. Basically where they stamp, a stamper mill kind of thing, crushing the rock. I don't doubt scattered around the outskirts will be some decent enough samples. Lots of money invested. Means there's a big mine somewhere right very close to here. Obviously the closer the mine is to where they're doing the processing, the better. So that direction, I see the thick timbers that they typically use on the head frames. So the actual shaft has probably been buried over by, you know, rotting logs. I'm not going to walk in that area. I can see that there's a little bit of cave-in. So beneath that, you've probably got about another 60-70 feet till you hit the water. Not going to walk there. This thing, no idea what it is. This one's obviously on an angle. A shaft going down on a very steep angle, like about 80 degrees. First find of silver, kind of speckled all along the top of this here. So far both pieces I've found are where the bulldozers, there have been some bulldozers digging there and they've turned up new material. And they've both been in this sort of white calcite sort of rock in a sort of a greyish vein where you've got the silver sparkling out. Jeff's metal detector gave off a pretty loud sound for this thing and he whacked it with a hammer. There it is. Pure silver, man. That's all silver. Lower grade though, like it's obviously mixed somewhat with cobalt. Urethyrite on the outside says that the ore within is tainted with cobalt. In itself, it's kind of a nice specimen of calcite. Do you keep it as the calcite specimen or do you whack it around a bit looking for the silver? Well, it was worth the effort. Took the hammer to the calcite and look what's inside it. I think we're going to break one piece down and keep one piece as a sample. This is beautiful. Look at this. Silver center. There must be one big shaft around here somewhere to produce all of this rubble. I see it all streaming that way. I'm going to have a poke around in the bushes, see what I can find. Think they'll mind? Tummy's feeling a little funny. I don't know what it is. Maybe that stew I had this morning for breakfast. Just the weight of this and the little smearing on top of the pink. let me know that it was indeed the ore that we're looking for. So, speaking to Andy Christie and Ralph Schroeder at their Cobalt house, at his Cobalt house, Ralph's, he said one of the ways you could find the silver is basically you close your eyes and you draw your finger across what I'm looking at there, and it almost feels like little pieces of tinfoil, and that is exactly there. Like you could do this prospecting for silver with your eyes closed, just touching and feeling these little bits of tinfoil. Often, here it is, my Grecian urn. It's a bit like archaeology, digging around. I mean, all of these little ceramic containers that they used for, I think, checking the purity of silver. I'm not exactly sure, but this is a fully intact one, and it's kind of cool because they've all got little glazes of some type on the outside, right? Like, look at that. That's got a bluish glaze. There's some here with green glazes. Can't find it exactly, the one I was looking at. There it is. There's a green one. Really kind of neat, right? So, I mean, I'm not sure the exact usage, but just digging here in this pile, you're finding them all over the place. I mean, the other option is that the miners were doing Japanese tea ceremonies with these little ceramic bowls, and I think that's my favorite one there. It's the glaze spilling over the edges. Don't know what the glaze is. Obviously some kind of, I'll look it up on the internet, figure out what it is. Maybe someone knows that's watching here and can leave in the comments what's going on with this stuff. So here's exactly where I'm finding them, this sort of mound of finely crushed rock, and you can see where it is, possibly in relation to, there down there's where we parked our car. So you come up onto the dumps and right to here, and basically I'm just digging, and I don't doubt there's lots more fully formed ones that are unbroken, but it's really, this again, you know, this is a silver center, right? I'm just leaving them here because it is part of the experience to see them. I hope you would do the same as well, so everyone can, you know, it's neat to dig them up and lay them around, right? There's a nice one. Good find, Jeff. There you go. See the difference here, right? Cobalt's kind of laid out for you if that's the kind of experience you're looking for, and it's definitely worth going to Cobalt. If you're up here, you need to go and check out some of the old mines. They're pretty scenic, and I will have more video on that, but Silver Center is kind of raw. It's untouched. You don't know what you're going to find. It's not as picked over. Fascinating, really cool stuff, right? So for me, I think Silver Center is kind of the place here. I know they got it in El Dorado. Bump. Oh, don't drink our specimens, buddy. Mama Booey. Guess you gotta use the back door.